Crime tape surrounds a sidewalk in West Baltimore as the city reaches a grim milestone. More than 100 shootings in the month of May. 40 people have been killed.
And that was a local CBS News affiliate describing the chaos Baltimore still faces. In fact, just this past month, Baltimore recorded its deadliest month in over 40 years.
Very concerning stuff. Meanwhile, over the weekend, also in Baltimore,
the only way we are going to rebuild the American dream is if we retake control of our own American government. And that is why today, to you and to all who can hear my voice, I declare that I am a candidate for President of the United States, and I am running for you. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
That is the former mayor of Baltimore, also the former governor of Maryland, announcing his 2016 presidential bid. But will that be baggage for him, his connection with Baltimore? And do other Democratic candidates have baggage as well? That's where we start this roundtable. And we welcome in columnist and radio television commentator Ellis Henican, who you see on screen left, and staff writer for the Weekly Standard, sticking around for us for the roundtable, Mike Warren. Thank you both for being with us today. All right, crime is at an all-time high in Baltimore. Ellis, local residents are organizing neighborhood watch groups to try and deter the large amount of violence that's taking place. Former Mayor O'Malley.
He's still O'Malley.
He's kind of tried to sidestep this issue as he tries to ramp up his campaign here. But do you think this is going to continue to follow him around, Ellis?
Well, follow him around in the extent that his opponents will slap him with it. I mean, that's how we play politics, right? But I mean, no rational person could think that that the fact that there's a bunch of murders in Baltimore today is caused by Governor or Mayor O'Malley. I mean, it's a tough, urban, poor, heavily minority city that has a decades and decades long crime problem. And you know, we can argue about whether he did the right things to solve it or not, or someone else could have done better. But listen, the reality is the private sector has failed Baltimore. There are inadequate jobs for the people who live there, and to try and blame a mayor or a governor, expect him to solve the whole thing is facile. Why don't I use that word? It's very.
But there are a lot of people that do blame him for that. There was talk about protests.
And he used his so-called success in Baltimore to help him get the governor's office. But Mike, let me ask you about what Ellis just said there. Is it the private sector's fault that Baltimore is failing as badly as it is?
I think it's a little more complicated than just the private sector has failed. Although you know, a lot of the shipping industry has pulled out of Baltimore. It's really a city that is trying to figure out for the last 40 years what it is and what its identity is, and the answer has been it's kind of a chaotic mess. On this question about Martin O'Malley, though, I mean, it is true that O'Malley sort of based his gubernatorial election on his record as mayor of Baltimore, but you look at what kind of mayor of Baltimore he was. He was not just a Clinton-style Democrat; he was a Rudy Giuliani-style Democrat. He was using sort of broken windows theory and sort of tough on crime policies to clean up Baltimore, and did a pretty good job in certain parts of the city that you could actually go to today that you couldn't 20 years ago. He's running away from that now because I think the Democratic Party doesn't really embrace that style of politics anymore. So now he's sort of run to the left, and he's kind of caught in the middle here. He might want to run on his Baltimore policies in a general election, but he can't use those in a Democratic primary that where the Democratic Party is just against stop and frisk, against tough on crime policies, as seen in Bill de Blasio, Mayor of New York's rhetoric.
Ellis, does he really stand a chance against Hillary Clinton?
No. I mean, come on.
That was simple.
Right? Obviously,
okay, there
no.
you go.
Unless something really horrible happens to Hillary, she's going to be the nominee, right? Don't we understand that now?
Now, there are a lot of people that would agree with you.
Well, there's some indication that that might be changing. But when you look at, you know, those tough on crime tactics that Mike was just talking about, Hillary Clinton, she used those same tactics to fortify President Clinton back in the mid-1990s. So,
yeah,
you know, if you want to look at tough on crime, and then everybody's now talking about reforming the judicial system in this country, you know, I don't know if that's an issue that Martin O'Malley certainly wants to take Hillary Clinton head on in that discussion. Ellis, what do you think?
Well, no, you're right, and clearly the public appetite has changed a bit. A couple of decades ago, when crime was wildly out of control across America, there was a great appetite for toughness, and now the crime numbers are way, way, way down everywhere, just almost everywhere. And so there's much more understanding that, some of these long sentences don't make any sense. Locking up nonviolent drug offenders doesn't make any sense. There's a reappraisal. The national mood has shifted, and that's just part of the yin and yang of politics over the long period, I think.
I think more fair for us to hold something against Martin O'Malley is his guitar playing.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that bad?
It's pretty bad.
Alice,
maybe not appropriate.
Alice, you
maybe
would know,
good,
right?
but not appropriate.
Are you a guitar player?
You know what? I am a guitar player.
Okay,
We're going to have a guitar
Garage
hero
bands,
matchup between
bands, yeah.
O'Malley and Henican coming up after the break. No, not really.
Guitar duel.
An air guitar duel, I
When
should
we
say.
come back, we're going to talk about Elizabeth Warren. How does that sound?
Elizabeth Warren, also Bernie Sanders, also both carrying some baggage into the race. We'll be back with more on that after this.
And back for round two of our round table is columnist and radio television commentator Ellis Henican and staff writer for the Weekly Standard, Mike Warren. Thanks for sticking around. So let's talk about Senator Elizabeth Warren. Some are saying she has a few skeletons in her closet. Let's take a listen to this.
Hear all this, well, this is class warfare, this is whatever. No, there is nobody in this country who got rich on his own. Nobody.
She got rich flipping homes.
That's right. My colleague Ileana Johnson and I looked into this. Boston Herald had done a bit on it in 2012, but we were able to find about 5 homes in Oklahoma that she had bought and then sold for a significant profit. And that's interesting as a hypocrisy point, because she's somebody who's taken to the public forum and said home flipping is very risky, very speculative.
Specifically.
All right, there you go, Julian K. Melchior on the Steve Malzberg Show discussing Warren's maybe hypocrisy. Mike Warren, you think that's a fair claim? Elizabeth Warren flipped some houses, therefore she's a hypocrite. Is that true?
I don't know. I mean, these claims of hypocrisy are so, I think, specious. Did she actually say nobody should be out there flipping homes? Did she just take advantage of something that was out there illegal? I don't know. If I had the wherewithal to be flipping 5 homes and making a bunch of money, I'd probably be doing it too. But I don't think this is a real problem for her politically. She's definitely a star within the Democratic Party. She sort of has her finger on the pulse of where the Democratic Party is on economic policy. The thing that's holding her back for a presidential candidacy is Elizabeth Warren, because she's not running. So
right.
I don't know how much impact this will have.
That's an important clarification to make there. But, everybody's got something that's going to come up in the course of this political campaign season. This is the worst they could come up with on Elizabeth Warren. Maybe she should run.
Yeah, that's not so bad.
Meantime, we got to talk about Bernie Sanders.
Okay, let's do it.
This is going to be a little awkward.
All right. Well, back in the subject of campaign liability, Senator Bernie Sanders, he's received some harsh criticism, John. And this was all over an essay, though, he wrote 4 decades ago. Take a listen.
You wrote this in February of '72. It was sort of a fantasy of men and women. You said a woman enjoys intercourse with her man as she fantasizes being raped by 3 men simultaneously. Your campaign described it as satire. Can you explain this essay?
Sure. Look, this is a piece of fiction that I wrote in 1972, I think. That was 43 years ago. It was very poorly written. And if you read it, what it was dealing with gender stereotypes, why some men like to oppress women, why other women like to be submissive. Something like 50 Shades of Grey.
Okay,
that was a different version of 50 Shades of Grey. Granted, I haven't read the book. Ellis, do you think that he should be held accountable for something?
Wait a second, Miranda. You haven't read that?
No,
you should read it.
You didn't read that?
I know. Shocking. Shocking.
Ask John. John will tell you all about it.
I'm sure he will.
Detail.
Yeah, look at him. He's like stunned. So,
all three are sitting on the bookshelf at home.
Now, granted, I'm shocked. I'm I'm just like everybody else. I'm shocked hearing that quote. But again, I haven't read the whole thing. Do you think that's fair to hold Sanders accountable for something that he said was written back in 1972. Ellis?
Well, first of all, even the concept of fair, I mean, nothing is fair. This is a guy running for
all
president.
fair, right? That's the point. It's all fair.
Yeah, I mean, anything and everything is going to be thrown at him and all the other candidates. Let's take that as a given,
Okay.
right? That
Fair
said, I hope you guys don't go and dig out some of my first newspaper columns.
Well, you're not running
they
for
weren't
office,
even
Ellis, so you're
fiction.
safe.
They weren't even fiction. Listen, this is silly stuff, right? I mean, obviously it's bad fiction. It's something he would rather not have there, not have to go on to Sunday morning TV and explain. But is it really damaging? No, it's not really.
I didn't think so, but then you hear Chuck Todd on Meet the Press. I know the ratings are hurting a little bit. You got to sex things up to get the people to watch. But come on, Chuck Todd asking this question, Mike, on Meet the Press of all places.
Welcome to America.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of agree with Ellis here. It's all out there, but it's also kind of silly. I think it's actually more an indictment of the 1970s, what people were doing and thinking, and what they were doing while they were thinking about these things. So I don't know. I think it's sort of a reminder of a very dark part of our past, which is the late 60s, early 1970s, when all kinds of drugs and weird ideas about sex and the sexes were going on. So
although if you
I
listen to the
it doesn't
poll
really
that John
hurt
said
Bernie
earlier,
Sanders.
polygamy is more popular now.
Not more
than
popular. It's more
acceptable.
Gaining, trending at least
Sorry.
towards the more acceptable range. Who knows what's going on? I think we can all agree we don't want to go back to 1973.
Right.
Let alone
Wait
for
a
the
second.
for the
Wait a
hair.
Wait, Ellis is like.
You know what? I've heard some stories about some of those wild parties back in those days. I mean, I'm much too young to know about it, but some of it sounds kind of fun. I'll admit that.
Well, maybe
I
Bernie
want to read your
Sanders-
essays.
we can
Maybe
we
I'll
can
read
find
your
more.
essays.
Or
Ask
maybe you can
Bernie
put together a
about
compilation between Ellis Henican and Bernie Sanders on the
No,
70s.
no, thank you.
No?
No.
Okay.
I'll keep that
he's
to
too young
myself.
for
All right, gentlemen, I think we got to take off. We're going to run here. Say
Yes.
goodbye to you. Good roundtable discussion. Mike Warren, Ellis Henican, we'll have you both back.
Thanks.
All right. Again, thank you, Chuck Todd, for asking that question.